Welcome everybody. Third session with Gregory. Thanks so much for being here, Gregory. Last time we had a great chat. Thank you guys. We went over 5,000 views thanks to you, Gregory, and your followers. I appreciate that, everybody. So today we'll try to make it as much as memorable possible. Fun fact. So today I was reading that on this day, back in 1854, the Republican Party was formed. Interesting. Speaking of Trump and
did not know that, but
yeah,
you know what, man? Every day you learn something new.
Yeah, I was like March 20th. I'm like, okay, that is very interesting. And apparently, 1916, this day, Albert Einstein publishes his general theory of relativity. So look at that. Yeah. And interesting day to do this. So guys, we're gonna jump into some of the stuff that happened, especially the last few months since our last video. We had the FOMC yesterday. Today, March 20th is the recording of this meeting together with Gregory. But you know, it was interesting because one question I think from yesterday, one of the reporters that was asked to Jerome Powell was interesting. He asked, like, why doesn't the consumer agree with you on the view of the economy as the consumer sentiment is plummeting? And his response said it all, that, oh, here at the Fed, we think the economy seems to be okay. And, you know, you've mentioned all these points the last few months on consumer spending, consumer confidence, house affordability, savings going down. What do you find different this time than the 2008 crisis? Is there anything that stands out to you that raises your eyebrow?
Multiple things at multiple levels. Let's just go back to yesterday. It was an incredible thing. So what did the Fed do? The Fed did nothing, as most people understood that was going to happen, but they did lay their case out for rate cuts through 2027. But the bigger issue right now is the balance sheet. You know, they're going to stop the runoff. They're going to start ballooning their balance sheet again. You can't make this stuff up, man. This stuff flies over the top of people's heads. I think the Fed right now is really on their mission to finish what they already started. They're going to inflate us to death, and we have politicians here playing right into it. It's an incredible thing. We need lower rates. We need lower rates, and of course, this is not what we need. We need to return purchasing power to the currency. We're not going to get that. We're being systematically destroyed. The wealth transfer effect is going to be maintained. Wipe out the middle class, wipe out the economy, wealth being pushed right up to the 1 to 2% via the same mechanism. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is literally the definition of a dystopian system that is wiping out the people. It's very unfortunate. But with regard to the similarities, there's a big one. I mean, but it's going to be much worse. The issue is we are, without beyond any doubt, in a multiple crisis environment right now. The biggest issue is liquidity, meaning there's not enough debt. I know how crazy this sounds, but to keep the system functioning, they got to inflate. And now they're using the United States is at war now. And this, I mean, people shouldn't be surprised who follow our work. I think they're pretty much been on the same page. They understand what's going on here. Without more debt being pulled into the system, and no other mechanism creates a greater need for borrowed dollars than war, we just implode. So, the system will lock up. So the big issue which we're facing here, because liquidity is drying up, is they're going to keep pumping it and find every reason they can come up with, even stuff of nightmares like war, to keep the system liquefied. Well, the bottom line is it can't go on in perpetuity. And the underlying problem is this. It's basically the premise that even they could keep pumping it, and they will, but the effect of it, you cannot escape the law of diminishing returns. Yeah. So at one point, we're going to end up seeing, what we're seeing now is the initial effect of this last 3 presidents inflating the debt. We're getting inflation to currency devaluation. They're only exacerbating the problem by creating cash out of nothing to finance war and everything else. And then we got calls for lower rates, which is purchasing power currency negative. I mean, but we're going to face a liquidity crisis is going to end up causing the same mechanism that was unfolding last time, which was the stopping of the flow of credit or debt through the system and a locking up of the system. But they're not done, in my view, pumping it to trying to keep the illusion real, just to make the inevitable ending of it that more dramatic, and people will beg for a solution. That's really what they're doing here. And you got politicians playing right into it around the world, none more so than I think here in the United States. Everything right now that President Trump has done, just like his last tenure, is working to make the Fed much stronger. And there are those on the other side that can't see it. They've been so blinded. And of course, a little bit of light sends them off on a tangent. So you can only imagine what we're going to see here with regard to the comments. But that's good for you and me. Let them attack the messengers. They can't attack the message because they know it's true.
Yeah. And talk about a theater of politics. Remember in the beginning, everybody was talking about they were presenting this narrative that the Fed is against Trump and Trump is against Jerome Powell. And journalists were asking Jerome Powell, what do you think of his comments of you potentially being fired because you didn't do a good job, et cetera, et cetera. And now you're seeing that what Trump's been saying all along, coincidentally, the Fed is aligning with that, right? Which is lowering interest rates, quantitative easing, or at least they signaled yesterday that the whole quantitative tightening will stop and they will go back to QE essentially. But around the world, we've seen a lot of central banks doing the same thing. Like here in Canada, they've announced that they're lowering rates. They're going to start injecting, liquidity in the system. And like you say, at some point there's a diminishing return, because how much can you keep on sustaining this house of cards? And Lynn Alden, I don't know if you're familiar with her work, she has this expression, this train is not stopping, nothing stops this train, or something like that. So it's
worse. I mean, the common denominator is I look for common denominators all the time. The common denominator here is very simple, as you just alluded to. You got central banks all doing the same thing at the same time. People are wondering why they're in the situation they're in. It's an incredible thing. It's all deception. It's all distraction. Look here, don't look over there. And this game between President Trump and the Federal Reserve is something we all knew was going to happen. It's people that follow our work, my work, and they're setting it up again. Yesterday, President Trump went off on a tirade how the Fed's not cutting rates soon enough, demanding that they cut in April here. And people just don't understand. They think this is going to help them. They really believe this. It's a mechanism to destroy them. They don't understand what's going on. Yes, I understand what I'm saying when I say that we need dramatically higher rates to return purchasing power to the currency. Imagine for a second if President Trump would actually say to his followers, listen, guys, I'm calling for lower rates, which is exactly what the Fed is saying they're going to do anyway. So we have the Fed and Trump working together, obviously, here. And people trust that that's the right thing. They don't like the Fed. They love Trump, but they don't see how they're both working together. Make it up. Make that up. I mean, you can't do it, bro. We really are in a very strange place. Yeah. But people can't – most people – I think don't get it. People that follow our work do get it. And once you get it, you can't unsee it. But that's the mechanism, exactly what you said. We're being destroyed. It's not going to stop. And we know it's not going to stop. But what action is being taken to prevent what the inevitable outcome is going to be by, let's say, Trump's own supporters? Yeah. Nothing. They're sitting back saying, oh, just give it time. Just give it time. Well, that's what he's hoping for, because it'll give him more time to work with the Fed to destroy the system we're in now and empower the Fed even more. I've been telling people, look, man, you probably get the same thing as me, I guess. I don't know. But the Federal Reserve under Trump's last tenure was vaulted to the pinnacle of power. Biden obviously added to that too. Obama. Okay, but we're going to see this get even much worse. With regard to the mechanism of war, we're going to see debts and deficits in the United States balloon to heights that people aren't going to believe. And all this nonsense that Doge is going to save us cash here, all it's being transferred from one place to another. And I said that was going to happen as well. It's amazing. People like you and me, we got their playbook, man, because it's too simple to just put these dynamics together. But people, again, they're the psyop, the brainwashed, the hopeless who feel like they have hope. which they don't, unfortunately, they're gonna lose the most. But people that understand these dynamics via shows like yours are going to have the best opportunity to get through what's coming, because we can't escape a worst case scenario because we're being thrust into it very fast.
Yeah. And it's the illusion again of wealth being distributed, because you see on a numerical aspect, sure, you see stocks go up, you see the price of commodities will definitely go up at some point. I mean, we've seen gold rally, but yeah, at the end of the day, true wealth is being confiscated, and this whole debt system is making people more and more entrenched into this part of slavery, which it's an invisible shackle, right? And you look around and you see people that they are truly struggling. Like, I see a lot of small, medium-sized businesses. We touched on this last time as well, but I see a lot of stores being closed down, even in great areas, even in neighborhoods here in Toronto, which you would think, like, really? Like, this place is where you want to have an antique shop, you want to have this higher end luxurious shop operate, but you're seeing like a lot of the owners are just fleeing the market because they're just not seeing the consumer come in, or at least new money come in. And that question yesterday to Jerome Powell just summed up how disconnected the Fed is with the real economy, with the real consumer, with the real middle class, with the real person who's really sustaining the government, sustaining the system, you know. And you see it time and time again. And I feel for my people in Europe. Like, I know you mentioned that too on your show. The Europeans are probably going to get it the hardest, but the U.S. right now is in a world where there's so much crisis, even on the foreign policy front and even domestically. So far, what has surprised you from Trump? Is there anything really that you saw that surprised you at all? I know his first and second term is a little bit different in terms of the people he has around him. There's been a lot of talk of him being more aggressive now because it's his last term. Being in the U.S., what has surprised you the most, though?
Well, prior to the presidential selection, we obviously did not have an election here. I told people how this was going to play out no matter who they picked. We were going to see certain dynamics play out, and whoever they chose to be president would work with the Federal Reserve to destroy things even further to fulfill the corporate agenda. We are going back to what you said earlier. It's an amazing thing. See, right here, I live in a relatively, I would say, an affluent area here in Florida, and there are business closures all over the place. There are homeless people starting to show up in the streets as well. We have a homeless crisis here in the United States that's about to hyper balloon moving forward. The policies that are in place right now, especially with the tariffs here and what we're going to see supply chain disruptions moving forward, no doubt about it, is it's a mechanism to wipe out small businesses in favor of fulfilling the corporate agenda. Everything President Trump has been doing here in his short tenure now, his new tenure, is very small business negative on a grand scale. So we're going to see mass failures of small businesses. They can't survive in this environment, and I think it's by design. I really, really do. I don't think anything that we're seeing here is by accident whatsoever. I think there's a long-term game that is in effect here, and certain people are selected to be in positions of power to elicit a particular end. I also believe there is some level of extremism here in the United States, maybe a little more so, talking about a surprise, than I would have believed. The mechanism here of hate and division in the United States is extreme right now. And these are people, for the most part, who claim to have some type of religious connection and referring to, all kinds of stuff along those lines. Again, there's extremism in all of its forms is very destructive and evil. I don't care if they're using religion as a background, but that's exactly what we see going on here. And unfortunately, I don't see this ending anytime soon. Not even, it doesn't seem like even war now. Trump was the anti-war president. We are at war.
Mm.
Even that is his people are backing it because again, it's being sold to them as a lie. This is a war against terror. Can you believe people are falling for that one again? It's not a war on terror. It's not a war on shipping lanes trying to keep them open. It's a war on them, and they don't get it. A mechanism to allow the Fed to inflate and therefore get stronger. That's all this is, to prop up that stock market, to continue to foster the wealth transfer. They don't see it because again, they're blind, and it's really, in a way, we're seeing history repeat itself. Leaders, charismatic leaders like this guy here, like President Trump here, they have a way to tap into a particular person's mindset and set a little fire going on there by and that mechanism is extremely destructive in my view. So I would say my biggest surprise is seeing this movement, if you want to call that, of fostering more hatred and more division. We know that was Trump. That's what he's all about. His own people can't even see it because they feel like this is the right thing. Again, it's extremism, and extremism is very damaging.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of sophistry coming from the contingency of Trump. You like you said, there's a mechanism there that taps into the follower of Trump. There's something about it, and it's palpable because I guess the last few years you've had this whole wokeism and a lot of like socialist, Marxist-esque ideologies floating around, and a lot of weird stuff from the previous government. So that is part of the problem, reaction, solution, right? And it seems like Trump now is the solution of the problem that is created by the same system. I see it here in Canada too. Now all of a sudden everybody hated the Liberal Party. I mean, because of Trudeau. As soon as Trudeau goes, they like the new guy just because he's a new guy, although he's the same page from Trudeau's book, affiliated with Epstein, affiliated with the World Economic Forum, affiliated with all these things that are, anti-democratic and very elitist. Yeah, and as a neighbor, like I can understand some things, especially when it comes to the tariffs. From what I've read, the U.S. has put less tariffs in comparison to Europe or Canada, so that I can understand. But yeah, there's this like righteous kind of sentiment about Trump, and that echoes with a lot of people.
This righteous sentiment. I mean, it's really, but it's interesting how we see things play out. You get a pendulum that swings from one extreme to another. And this mechanism again is that divide and conquer thing here. Look, I was no fan of Joe Biden. I think everyone knows that. I attacked that. I blasted him virtually every single day on my blog, and so definitely not a Joe Biden fan at all. But look, man, I really had hoped, of course, falsely, that we would see a president here in the United States would really be looking to build up America from the bottom. And that's not what we're seeing at all. We're seeing, again, a greater attack on the economy here in the United States. And I'm sure you're probably seeing the same thing over by you. I should follow a little more closely. And the middle class always pays for it. And the people sit back and they get smacked across the face and they say, thank you, sir, can I have another? And then they say, oh, well, don't worry about it. Things are going to change. You can't make it up. I mean, really, this is the definition of a dystopian society, unfortunately. But, look, man, what we're going to see moving forward is pretty obvious to me. It's a further decline, a rapid decline of the global economy. And with regard to America and the United States, I think that the American people are really in for a shock with regard to how fast the economy is going to crater here in the United States because of in fact, almost all of the current economic policies that have been put in place here by President Trump are destructive to the economy and to the middle class. It's an incredible thing to see.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, just push this point home. How do we have people? Most of Trump's people hate the Fed. However, Trump and the Fed are on the same page with regard to cutting rates. The Fed said they're going to cut rates. All right. Yeah. Trump wants rates lower. So how do they justify that? Shouldn't we be doing the opposite of what the Fed is saying? Wouldn't that really be the way to make America great again? They don't see it. This is how blind they have become. But this mechanism of central banks lowering rates and destroying the purchasing power of the currency around the world, it seems to be exactly what you and I have spoken about before. It's going to continue. It's not going to stop. And everyone who's saying that obviously understands the dynamics that are in play right now. Central banks, obviously, in a race to the bottom, who can destroy their purchasing power of their currency first, who can force more suffering on their citizenry. Yeah. I mean, it's so freaking obvious, man. But look, we need real change. We're not getting it. We're getting. Not only are we getting more of the same, but it's becoming worse.
Yeah, it seems we haven't scraped the bottom of the barrel yet, because you look at indicators. I look at Europe, because I find Europe has a much more, how should I put it? They're much more elitist. There's so many unelected bureaucrats who determine the future of people there. And I always look at for clues in Europe, and I notice, like, after Trump's remarks and sanctions and tariffs, et cetera, all of that talk, like right now the EU is they're going to supply the industry, the weapon industries, with hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, promoting national and local companies to buy from weapons to secure their own independence and kind of like distance themselves from the US. And it's like, sure, that would have been great if it was for the small, medium-sized businesses, but you're looking at the money where it's going. It's going to large conglomerates, large weapon manufacturers, who are going to do what? They're gonna sure, there's going to be some new job openings, but this money, can you imagine? I think I read 800 billion euro. For what? To make weapons now to fight Russia? Like, this is how twisted and warped the leaders are from reality. And same over here in North America, you see, like, most people are just so detached with what the government is doing, and it's really scary to see, because a lot of this harkens, World War II, World War I again, where countries are fighting each other. Globalization now seems to have peaked, and we're reaching a point where it's like everybody's out there for themselves. And I'm generally an optimistic person, but I'm really fearful for the future. I don't see a slither of hope that things will reverse. Like, sure, we hear a lot of Putin and Trump agreeing on a ceasefire, but a new front seems to be opening with China. What do you think? I see it's so obvious that Iran and China now is the new frontier that is being refocused again under Trump. What do you see under that? Because I think Ukraine will kind of stop for a little bit, or we're seeing that kind of pause, because Ukraine is obviously at a point where they can't really defend themselves. Russia has advanced so much. What do you see there with China and Iran? Because I see that as the next frontier.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. Let's go back a moment. Seeing, in my opinion, here is this nationalistic kind of isolationist kind of thing. At the same time, we got President Trump looking out and again pointing fingers at this and that and the other freaking thing here. And going back to what you said as well, I don't think we've been in a more dangerous spot in the with regard to the world since World War II. And I believe it's clear to me that we are already in an economic global war, obviously. And I don't see war stopping anytime soon anywhere. You may hear a lot of talk that maybe ceasefires and obviously fighting will resume. They're not going to let that go, because that war is their mechanism to generate cash and pull cash into the system. They're going to splatter blood and guts from one end of this planet to the other one. That's kind of what they're looking to go for. But I think right now, never before since World War II have we seen a greater chance that we will see more war, more fighting, more death, more pain, more suffering, because that's where the money is. It's unfortunate. There's no money in peace and unity and love. It's in hatred and division. And that's what they're financing right now. Hatred, division, war, separation from this, that, or the other thing. Hate these people because of that, hate these other people because of this. And this kind of is really, I mean, here in the United States, it's to an extreme level, and I hear from thousands and thousands of people that's in their head. I can see it. I hear from them. That's what. And again, this goes back to, again, World War II, what we were seeing back then and what we're seeing now. Many, many parallels here.
Yeah.
I have friends of mine who are in the military intel business here, and they're in the same boat. They're like, Greg, man, we've never been closer to a kinetic war, world war, than we are right now since the last World War. And I mean, these are guys in the military intel that tell me this kind of stuff. I mean, that's some of the stuff I hear I probably shouldn't hear. But these are friends of mine, some I've known for a very long time. But look, man, it's not just you and me. The people that follow work, they see it too. And unfortunately, it's the minority that tends to drag the minority down by this extremist mentality that seems to be really invading the mindset of people around the world. It's that pendulum swinging from one extreme side to the other extreme side. There's no secret as to why certain people are selected to be put in power to pull the population in one direction and all of a sudden pull it another way. People don't know. They get very confused. And then again, it creates an environment ripe for extremism. And I think that's really what we're seeing here.
Yeah, and it going back to the mentioning of World War II, we know if history can show us one thing is that prior to greater wars, there was always that interruption of trade. So as soon as trade stops, war ensues, wars follow, and we have exactly that playbook being played out of protectionism, which in some cases you could argue it's good, but in this situation, there are just so many fronts that are opening, and it's kind of scary because back then you didn't have the technological means and to wipe out and exterminate larger populations, and having a lot of these psychopathic leaders with buttons and all these missiles that we keep hearing these new technologies now are just coming about, and especially with the whole drone action that we've seen in Ukraine, it is very scary to think about what could possibly happen. And again, Trump came out, and I always wanted to kind of believe, like you said, like I wanted to see, okay, maybe this guy is for real. Maybe he does something. But the whole thing that he's about peace and he doesn't want war. Okay, you don't want war there, but why are you all of a sudden now attacking again Houthis and Iran and China and all this discussion of war? It's like, okay, he wants to stop one war, but then he wants to open the floodgates to a way bigger war, which will probably include many more countries, because China has many more countries it's doing trade with. So I can't imagine that China's trade allies and partners will be for the United States or just be impartial. At some point, like we've seen in Ukraine, Russia brought in a lot of people from different countries and included different mercenaries. We saw technology, weapons, etc. So I can't even imagine what would happen with the front with China. Now, how much of that is just a business pressure and just hot air in order to kind of make China succumb to commercial agreements, etc. But yeah, it seems like we are in a very precarious spot. I want to ask you about the stock market, because for months now you've been calling for lower rates and knowing the playbook. I, on the other side, was looking at the chart and the technicals, and some time ago I called the top as well. I thought that we're going much lower. What do you see with the stock market? Because it's been very interesting to see that on a 10% correctionary move, people are freaking out, thinking we're entering into a crash and this and that. You've been on point the last several years with the direction and the trajectory of the markets. What do you think we can expect in the next quarter or two, the stock market?
People are freaking out right now because they're not used to seeing this. We haven't had a normal correction in this market since as far back as you want to go. Markets normally, I think that's all we have. I don't believe this is a crash. I've been telling people forever, and you probably know this, that the real crash is going to begin and end in the debt market. The stock market goes up, it goes down. That's just the way it is. And I believe they're going to utilize, again, every thing imaginable to keep the stock market propped up, meaning lower rates, inflating the Fed's balance sheet, probably, obviously, more war and stuff like that. So the market, I mean, there's no connection, man. You know this, between the economy and the markets anymore. People are freaking out because they don't know any better right now, and it's part because people are fearful too. I understand that. You look, man. People look at their investment plans, they think it's all real. It's not real. These are all just digits on a screen. It don't matter. It's just kind of crazy how people perceive things to be real when they're not. This whole thing is an illusion, obviously. But I don't think the correction's over. Okay. In fact, I just did a whole breakdown this morning again on the S&P 500. It's posted to my my website right now. Look, we are due for, if I want to say that we're due for a little bit of a bounce. But it's so interesting what happened yesterday with the Fed. With the Fed saying that they're going to cut rates moving forward through 2027, but the Fed saying they're going to, stop the runoff in the balance sheet. The market didn't do much. I mean, we had a gain yesterday, but I would have expected to see, I don't know, twice what we got, and then a follow through today. I don't know what the market's doing as we speak. But it was down earlier today. We're not getting a follow through. And again, I think this comes down to a lot of the factors that you had just touched on a little while ago. What's happening here with the United States is, first of all, I don't even know who our allies are anymore. That's number one. Number two, with that, I believe that other nations around the world are going to look for other trading partners. The United States is becoming insignificant. The dollar has been screaming, in my opinion, for weeks that we got a big problem. There's no major knee-jerk here into the dollar as a safe haven, even though we are at war. You're not seeing that. Even with the stock market dropping 10% or whatever it's done, no knee-jerk into the dollar as a safe haven. So, I mean, the signs are everywhere if you just know what you're looking at. And I don't think people understand it. By and large, people don't. They watch the mainstream media, and then they believe that's the truth. What they have is people reading a script, just like the president of the United States does. Teleprompter to teleprompter. This is what I'm being told to say today. So I got to read these teleprompters. This is what I am being told to say. You and me, look at me, man. You. We're sitting here. We're just talking, putting this stuff together in a way that people hopefully can understand. And look, bro. I think you and me and the people that follow our work, they know all of the stuff we're talking about, and they like hearing it. This stuff needs to be reinforced. And people, look, man, people only want to know one thing. They want to know what the truth is, which they can't get from politicians or from central bankers or anyone else, or from the mainstream media at all. And then they want to know, even if the truth is bad, at least so they can understand what to do. So solutions are very simple in my book here. Number one, we need, first of all, a return to some type of a commodity-backed system, in my view. A commodity which is stable. I know a lot of people want to see like a Bitcoin-backed currency. Bitcoin is extremely volatile, man. I love Bitcoin. I love the crypto space. I'm in it. I'm buying more. I just bought Bitcoin like a week or two ago. Bought my Bitcoin. But we need something stable to help stabilize the world economy. We need to get central bankers out of the picture. We really do not need lower rates. We need higher rates. I know what I'm saying by this, that it would push us more drastically into a recession, which we're going to get anyway. We're moving rapidly into an inflationary depression everywhere. But again, look, this is no secret. If we know this stuff, do you think they know it too, including President Trump, including the Federal Reserve, including whatever world leader is sitting behind whatever desk they've been placed in around the world? Of course they know. But nothing is being put up in the way to prevent what's coming here. They can't. And for here in the United States, I'll tell you why it's worse here right now. What we're seeing is this mechanism where the United States is being isolated. People don't want our dollars. People don't want our products. People think the United States is the laughing stock of the world for the right reasons, honestly. And with that, you got this mechanism of all these unneeded bills just starting to come back here to the United States and chase, in this case, a lesser amount of goods that are being produced because manufacturing is falling off of a freaking cliff. So with that, we haven't even begun to see the inflationary nightmare that's coming at us. What are they doing to fix it? Nothing. There's not a single roadblock to stop it. President Trump calling for lower rates. Is that really going to stop? No, of course it's not. It's going to exacerbate the underlying problem. And again, there's nothing being done about it. So what people can expect is, although there are solutions to all this,
Sure.
there's nothing right now being put in place by this president right now, or nor the last one, to stop it.
Yeah. I mean, a lovely 180 turn would be to see Trump just say, hey, since he already has good relationship with Putin and the Indian president, or is he the prime minister, Modi, to say, hey, the U.S. is joining BRICS. We appreciate the commodity basket that is backing a potential currency. Why not? Let's like if. And this is the thing, like there's always options, and Trump at this point, that's when I would believe that, okay, he's on to something. He truly is against the Fed, because think about, like right now the IMF is in a precarious situation because of Bitcoin and the emergence of commodity-backed currencies that the BRICS have been discussing. How much of that actually materializes, who knows? But the IMF seems to be in a very bad spot. And I think the final blow to that would be if Trump just joins, says, hey, BRICS, there's a lonely position there. The U.S. can fill in the shoes. How would you react to that? Because I would love to see that. And that's why when I see Trump having positive talks with Russia, talking about India, I mean, why not? Like, do you think he doesn't want to face what JFK faced? Do you think that he's afraid of a possible assassination if that happens? Like,
look, man, I don't know what the man is afraid of here. If I were him, I think that would be a worry to me. I'll be honest with you. But there is talk about this, and I hear from my own people. Oh, Greg, the United States is going to be joining the BRICS. It's going to join the BRICS. It's going to join the BRICS. I think that's probably not going to happen, but there is talk about it. I haven't really got into it deep enough in my own brain to try to get my head around it. It's an interesting concept, but I still don't see it at this time here. There may be a time where the United States is actually forced to take some kind of a move like that. You have to really just wonder what is happening here in the United States. Is this really, honestly, just by chance? Of course it isn't. So we have to realize that there is something bigger, that something else is being set up. And could it be something like that? Hey, man, I guess, I don't think I could discount anything. I'm an open-minded guy. I'm willing to look at what the data says or what I see going on, the dynamics in play, and I look at it every freaking day of my life, to the point of obsession, pretty much. But look, man, I wouldn't discount anything here. And I would say this, people need to be ready for anything as well, too. Shocks to the system, shocks to themselves here. Just look, have the high ground, make sense of what's going on. I don't want to change anybody's mind. I say this all the time on everyone's show that I'm on or whatever it might be. Is like, just take in the information that you and I have spoken about.
Yeah.
Think about it. And then make up your own mind. I mean, I don't think you want to change anybody's mind. You don't seem like you do. You want just people to know the facts. Same thing here. I don't want to change anybody's mind either. I want people to know the facts, or as they are presented here, and then make up their own mind as to what they should do for themselves. I really believe that people need to start thinking more down the line. In other words, stop living in a little tiny bubble, burst that bubble, start thinking outward further down the line with regard to what this would mean for you. Let's say, for example, the person listening, what would it mean for you if things deteriorate further from here? What would it mean for you if you lose more of your purchasing power moving forward here? How are you going to make it be? What's going to happen when we see private sector jobs here in the United States start to disappear? And that is going to happen. There's no doubt about it as the economy continues to slow down. This is a phenomenon we're going to see around the world. And that's going to cause a lot of anger. And people are going to get up in arms. Again, the potential for civil unrest and war is very great right now, as you alluded to earlier. Anyway, dude, this has been a really great talk. And I hope people listen to what we're saying.
And you know, I was reading the other day that on March 15th, a few days ago, you know, just because we have so much on the media going on, a very important event happened in Beijing in China. Basically, Russian, Chinese, and Iranian representatives got together to discuss about the Iranian nuclear program and that they're going ahead. So this U.S. isolation, to an extent, the U.S. could afford that with, of course, the right measures. But if you notice around the world, when the U.S. is withdrawing, you see a lot of other countries joining together, using trade, using democratic procedures. And that's why it's very scary for us in North America and, you know, especially the U.S., because who knows what could happen, because the U.S. has been the global policeman for such a long time, and now it's withdrawing that presence, leaving a void. And we all know, especially what happens when a lot of leaders, such as Gaddafi, get taken out, or what happened with Syria, where everybody hated Assad, right? Assad was the one killing, and now you have a jihadi guy in power who the Democrats love, and you know, it's like everything is whitewashed, and you know, all these Christian deaths and persecutions don't make the media, don't make the news anymore. But you see that void, that gap, that as soon as stability and order is taken out, darkness takes over, and that's what's scary. So I hope that a lot of people are listening. Like you said,
don't worry, because there will be something to fill the void. And I think whatever comes to fill the void in this environment isn't going to be pretty. So that's another consideration, and I'm glad you brought that up 100%. That's a very important point. The void will be filled. What fills that void? Yeah. We'll talk about that on the next show, bro.
Yeah. No, this has been a great chat. Thanks so much, Gregory. It was a pleasure having you on again. Guys, please subscribe, like, and comment whatever you guys liked on the show today. And, of course, follow Gregory and his Instagram. I think you mentioned earlier before the recording, you're going for a race today?
Yeah, I'm going racing later.
Lovely. Take it out like that.
Even if it's just for 8 seconds, that's my car runs a quarter mile in about 8 seconds. So even if it's just for 8 seconds, it helps me out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I love the chat. Enjoy the racing, and I'll see you another time.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.